Have you ever wanted to fake the perfect almond-shaped eye? Well, this Turkish Delight inspired makeup look is for you. We're creating a double-lined eyeliner effect that lifts and elongates the eyes with strategic nude liner placements to make them look bigger and brighter. The inspiration for this look has been taken from the golden age of Turkish cinema, which dates back to the 1960s and 70s. You want to start with a nude or flesh-coloured eyeliner. This one is by Kryolan. It's a Faceliner in a cream shade, which is perfect just because it brightens the eye. It's not as stark as white, so it's much more flattering. The eyeshadow is going to be super simple. We're going to take this Stone Cold Fox eyeshadow palette by Colourpop Cosmetics, and I'm taking the shade Luxe, which is almost like a bone colour. And we're going to use this to brighten the very inner corner of the eye. This is a matte shade. I feel like this again is much more flattering rather than using something that's too shimmery. So use a small brush to apply this on the inner corner of the eye, but also take it up onto the eyelid, only a third of the way in, and also across your tear duct area. And this will create a focal point. It will brighten this entire space. A little tip is to make sure that your foundation base or your concealer is completely set in place before you go in with a matte eyeshadow. That way you'll get a smooth finish. For the rest of the eyelid space, we're going to take Luxe, but also mix a small amount of Trip with that. And on a flat shaded brush, I'm taking that over the rest of the top eyelid. Because we want this to be slightly brighter than the skin tone, but not quite as bright as the inner corner, mixing a little bit of Trip with Luxe will just tone that down slightly. As I mentioned earlier, these are matte eyeshadows, which I prefer because it doesn't take away from the eyeliner. Shimmers tend to be more of a focal point, whereas we want the eyeliner to be the focal point here. I'm taking the shade Enigma, which is a light to medium brown. It's ever so slightly darker than my skin tone, and we're taking this through the socket to add a very subtle contour to this space. This is going to help enhance the lid space, making it look bigger. It almost creates a soft shadow, but we don't want it to be grey, we still want it to be warm like the skin tone. For the eyeliner, I've chosen to use the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Glide Eye Pencil in Black Treacle, and I'm loading up the bristles of the Anastasia Beverly Hills No. 3 brush because this is much more precise than using the pencil directly. I'm using the side of the brush to work that underneath the lower eyelashes and the centre of the eye first, and then I'm going to use what's left on the bristles to work that backwards to the outer corner, stopping before I reach the edge of the eye, and the same goes for the inner corner. We don't want to take that past the tear duct because these are the areas that we're going to extend to make the eye look bigger than it actually is. So you want to make sure that you don't take it to the very outer corner but also not the very inner corner. We're then taking a small blending brush and buffing that out, and this is in real time. Keep buffing until you have that soft blend. I'm swapping my brush to a very tiny eyeliner brush. This is actually an art brush, and I'm taking that slightly lower than the tear duct by about 2mm. I've done the same as we did with the Anastasia Beverly Hills brush and loaded up the bristles with the eyeliner. Going back to my No. 3 brush, I'm using the tip, which is very flat and pointy, and I'm using that to softly blend the appearance of that line so it looks like more of a gradient rather than a harsh drawn on line. We now want to extend the lower eyelash line, so we want to again drop that by about 1.5 mm lower than the actual corner of the lid, following the trajectory of that lower eyelash line up at an angle so it gives a lifted look to the eye, all while keeping that line relatively straight and extending it past the corner of the eye. This is going to give the illusion that the eye is longer than it actually is. Hopefully that makes sense. The line is straight but it is up at an angle. And then we're softly blending it, not too far down, just enough to soften the line. Now for the top eyeliner, we want to load those bristles up with more of that eyeliner pencil by Lisa Eldridge and create small strokes to create a line across the top lid, making sure it's slightly thicker on the outer corner and thinner as we get towards the inner corner of the eye. Don't worry about it being completely neat because we are going to buff over it to create a soft top. That's why I've chosen not to use a liquid eyeliner, but you can use a liquid eyeliner if you prefer a more crisp finish. Notice that I'm using the tip of the brush for the inner corner because the tip is thinner, but as I'm drawing those short strokes on the top and the outer corner, I'm using the side of the brush. The side of the brush is slightly thicker than the tip of the brush, and then if you turned it completely on its flat side, that in itself is thicker than the side. So you can use all three sides of the brush to create different thicknesses. Going back to my art brush, I'm going to the very outer corner of the eye and I'm creating a winged liner like I ordinarily would. And as you can see, it leaves a gap between this one and the lower eyelash line, which is really important for this look. The top wing is going to be extended out slightly further than the lower eyelash line. The winged thickness is really dependent upon your eye shape and your preference. I feel like this works for me. It's not too big or too small. As you can see, I'm using the tip of my Anastasia Beverly Hills brush to start to soften the very top, which is going to create a bit more of a gradient finish. I personally feel that a softer finish rather than a crisp winged liner is more flattering, and it also looks more skillful. A little tip when you are doing this part of the eye makeup is to take your brush and buff it onto a clean towel. That way if you keep cleaning the bristles, your blend will be softer and you won't get into a muddy mess. We're now going back to our cream eyeliner and we're going to place this between the two black liners that we've created on the outer edge. It's important to get right on that inner corner and make sure it lines up with the eyeliner that we've got along our waterline. This is key in creating that almond shape, but also making the eye look a lot bigger. Droopy eyelashes on the outer corner are going to disguise all that hard work that you've created on the outer edge. So I'm going to take a small eyelash curler, which is more precise, and I feel like this gives more of a bend to the eyelashes. And I'm going to use this specifically on those outer lashes to give them some extreme lift. I will link this curler in the description bar for you. And then to curl the entire lash line, I'll use my Refa eyelash curlers. Curling your eyelashes exposes the fleshy tone that we have on the top lid, so we want to make sure we use something that's waterproof to disguise this pinky tone, and I'm going in with an eyeliner by Wet n Wild. I now want to darken the eyeliner, so I'm going in with my Blackest Black eyeshadow by Natasha Denona on an angled liner brush, and I'm stamping this along the root of the eyelashes. I don't want to go too high because we've done some gradient work with our brush and we don't want to make this eyeliner any bigger than it already is. So this is going at the base of the eyeliner. In order to make sure that I don't extend the eyeliner any more than it already is, I'm using an angled liner brush for the outer edge when stamping this eyeshadow on top. And for the same on my lower eyelash line, always use a smaller brush for the detailed work. For my eyeliner brush, you'll see that I'm using one that's angled at the top. The neck itself is bent slightly, it did come like this, and this is great because it means you don't have to keep rotating your elbow or your arm in order to get at the right angle. Having the bent neck means it makes life so much easier as you only have to rotate the handle rather than your arm or your elbow. So again, use small strokes, dipping it into the eyeshadow, keeping it all very close to the root of your eyelashes, and stamping along the line that we've already created. This part is like tracing a drawing rather than creating the drawing from scratch. Moving on to mascara, I've chosen the Lisa Eldridge Kitten Lash in black, and what I'm doing here is making sure that I don't coat the very outer corner eyelashes because I don't want them to droop down, and I also want to avoid any darkness here because it's going to disguise the white line and the double eyeliner that we've created. If you are somebody that doesn't like to wear false eyelashes, then go in with lashings of mascara, but again avoid that very outer corner. Even if it's the last 2 or 3 eyelashes, it may look as though I'm coating them, but I'm really avoiding the very last few. Now it's also the same principle with our lower eyelashes. We don't want to go to the very root of the eyelashes because it will be visible. If you look close, that cream eyeliner has coated the very root of our lower lashes and we don't want to darken that because otherwise it will spoil the illusion of that line. And you only want to apply mascara to the middle and lower half of those lashes on the inner corner and the outer corner. Underneath my lower eyelashes, I'm taking these small dovetail lashes. You can get these on Amazon. I'm only going to use around 4 or 5 of these eyelashes, and I'm going to make sure they're spaced out, and this is going to give a really pretty finish to the bottom eyelashes. Today I've chosen to use the Lash Brace Pro Effects eyelashes in Spiky for the top lash line. These are only $4.99, they're currently on sale, and you can use my discount code for an extra 10% off. I'm cutting these into 4 or 5 sections, and I'm going to place these again with a small gap between them along the top eyelash line. The glue I'm using is Duo glue. These are just day lashes. You can take them off at the end of the day, and yes, you can reuse these tiny sections. You just peel the glue off and pop them back in the tray. They have been designed to be used underneath your top lashes and therefore would look less intense because they've got further to travel up. They look a bit more intense when they sit on top of your eyelashes, but you can also use a 7-day glue with these, so you can use these types of lashes on holiday. I've specifically chosen this style and to use them on top of my eyelashes because I want them to look a bit thicker and a bit more intense. It's more befitting of that look that we saw during that era on the actresses. Now when it comes to the very outer corner of the eye, I'm going to put the lashes on the liner, not at the root of my eyelashes. Again, we don't want the eyelashes to droop, so place this one on the skin and slightly higher than your lash line. That way it will give that lifted look to the eye and we won't lose that cream line that we've got going through the centre. How pretty is this result? I think this is so beautiful. Those tiny eyelashes on the lower lash line is so reminiscent of the 60s twiggy look. But that extension of the cream liner and the double wing really gives the illusion of an almond shape and makes the eyes look so much bigger. So how did I do in creating the trending Turkish Delight makeup? I'm a little bit late to the party with this one, but I hope you still enjoyed it. As always, everything I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar so you can shop directly from the video. Please subscribe if you are new to my channel. My name is Shonagh Scott and I'm a professional makeup artist. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!